Amid the lively chatter of wedding guests and the clinking of glasses, I stood, burdened by 13 years of memories that clung to me like an inescapable shroud. No matter how vibrant the celebration, Olivia remained at the forefront of my thoughts. The upbeat melody filled the air, urging people to dance without a care. Yet my mind was elsewhere. Then, as if summoned by fate, my ex appeared, gliding toward me with the same self-assured stride she had always possessed, as though she commanded the very space she walked in. She hadn't changed much, except for a sharper haircut, her blonde strands still draping just over her shoulders. And those eyes that once unraveled me. I had loved her with an intensity that had also brought unbearable pain. We had once been young, hopeful, and full of promises, vows of forever that reality had shattered. Doctor visits, endless waiting, and the crushing silence that followed defined our final days. Her voice, once warm, turned frigid when she spoke those final, cruel words. When we failed to conceive, she left, hurling accusations like daggers, blaming me for her unfulfilled dreams. "Without a family, you're not a real man," she had said before walking out of my life. 13 years had passed, yet I had never been the same. This wedding, meant to be a reunion for an old university friend, had unexpectedly reunited me with her. I had come expecting nostalgia, not confrontation. But here she was, eyes locking onto mine across the room before she approached, her heels clicking against the polished floor like the drumbeat of an impending battle. I stuffed my hands into my pockets, masking my unease as she halted just a few feet away. She wore that smirk, the one I had always despised, the one that declared her victory before she even spoke. Well, she drawled, her voice thick with the same arrogance I remembered. "Still single, huh? No one to tie you down? No responsibilities?" She flicked her hair back with a dramatic flourish, as if she were the star of some grand production. "My life's different now. I'm with Richard, successful, handsome, everything you weren't. And our son, Caleb, he's brilliant, top of his class, a natural pianist. You should see him." She let out a sharp, almost triumphant laugh, as if her words were meant to cut deep. I let her talk, let her spin her carefully curated narrative. I could have interrupted, could have challenged her claims, but I didn't. I simply let her bask in what she believed was her victory. She continued, detailing Caleb's achievements, Richard's success, the perfection of her post-me existence. I merely nodded, my expression unreadable, though anger simmered beneath the surface. I waited for her to pause, for that inevitable moment when she would need to take a breath. And when she did, I seized the opportunity. Shifting slightly, I glanced over my shoulder and made a small gesture. "Nice," I said, my tone calm. "Here's my son." The words landed between us like a thunderclap. I watched her smirk falter, confusion flickering across her face as her gaze darted past me. She zeroed in on Adrian, standing by the dessert table, chatting with cousins. At 12, he was already taller than most kids his age, with my hazel eyes and a smile entirely his own. Olivia's mouth parted, but no words came. The hands that had animatedly emphasized her every boast a moment ago now trembled, first slightly, then violently, as she took in the sight of him. I could see the gears turning in her mind, desperately trying to reconcile this reality with the story she had told herself for years. She had painted me as the failure, the reason we never had a family. But here I stood, next to a son she couldn't deny. "Adrian," I called casually. He looked up, flashed his easygoing smile, and strolled over. Standing beside me, hands in his pockets like mine, I rested an arm over his shoulders. Olivia's gaze flicked between us, her breath catching as though she had forgotten how to inhale. "This is my boy," I said, my voice steady and proud. She went pale. The color drained from her face like water slipping through cracked glass. The confident facade she had worn so effortlessly for years crumbled before my eyes. And for the first time since I had known her, Olivia looked utterly lost, as if the foundation of her carefully constructed world had just collapsed beneath her feet. I didn't need to say another word. The truth stood right beside me, a living, breathing testament that everything she had once believed was false. She muttered something, perhaps a half-formed question, but I simply offered a small, tight smile and let her flounder. Adrian tilted his head, curious but unbothered. He didn't fully grasp the weight of the moment. Not yet. But I did. I felt it deep in my bones. The quiet satisfaction of seeing her unravel. Not because I had orchestrated it, but because life has a way of writing its own stories. She had left me, making me feel insignificant. Yet here I stood, whole, content, with a family she could only dream of. The music played on. The celebration continued. But for that fleeting moment, it was just me, my son, and Olivia, frozen in astonishment. And damn, it felt incredible. The tension shattered with a child's innocent voice. "Oh, Dad, that's the boy from the violin event, right?" Caleb pointed at Adrian, his tone eager and oblivious to the thick air around him. I nearly laughed. Richard's frown deepened, but Olivia flinched as if she had been struck. A quiet chuckle escaped me, one I couldn't suppress. Olivia's head snapped toward me, her voice sharp as she tried to regain some semblance of control. "What's so funny?" she demanded. I shrugged, still grinning. Nothing, just something amusing. Adrian won a major violin competition last month. Big event, made the news and everything. I believe Caleb was there, watching my son take first place. Olivia's lips pressed into a thin line, as if she had just tasted something unbearably bitter. Richard placed a protective hand on Caleb's shoulder and muttered, "Come on, let's go." But Olivia didn't move. She just stood there, staring at me, at Adrian, at Sophia, as if she were seeing ghosts. Caleb, however, glanced at Adrian again, his eyes narrowing slightly. I caught it, that flicker of admiration, mixed with something sharper. Envy. My son had achieved something his hadn't, and it showed. Olivia's carefully crafted world, her picture-perfect life, was no longer the only one in the spotlight. She turned to Richard, then back to me, her voice barely above a whisper, trembling as she asked, "You have a son?" It wasn't a question anymore. It was a truth she could no longer escape. I nodded slowly, deliberately. "Yes, Olivia, I do." And just like that, the foundation of everything she had built cracked beneath her feet. Right there, in the middle of that grand wedding, while my family stood firmly beside me, hers began to splinter. The party carried on, laughter, music, the clinking of glasses. But I only focused on Olivia, pale-faced, her gaze locked onto Adrian as if he were an unsolvable puzzle. And Adrian, completely unaware of the storm he had stirred, simply licked frosting off his fingers. Richard, sensing the moment slipping beyond control, tried again. "Let's go," he urged, his voice tight. But Olivia remained frozen, unable to move, unable to tear her eyes away from the truth standing before her. I could see it sinking in. The years she had spent running were finally catching up. Then, once again, Caleb's voice cut through the heavy silence. "Dad, that's the boy from the violin competition, right?" he asked, tugging at Richard's sleeve, pointing at Adrian with awe and something else. I couldn't help it. A low, rough chuckle escaped me. Oh, this was too much. Olivia's head whipped toward me, her eyes narrowing as though she were desperately searching for an escape. "What's so funny?" she snapped, her voice thinner now, almost fragile. I shrugged again, my tone light, almost teasing. "Nothing. Just interesting. You had no idea, did you?" Her silence was answer enough. The tightness in her jaw, the furrow in her brow. She had been blindsided. Adrian had made headlines last month, winning a prestigious international violin competition, the kind that gets your name in the papers, the kind that earns you a trophy bigger than your head. I had been there front row, cheering him on while Sophia captured every moment. And Caleb must have been there too, watching my son claim victory. And Olivia, the woman who had spent years boasting about her exceptional child, had no idea. Her son had sat in the audience while mine took center stage. The irony was suffocating, and I let her sit with it, let her squirm in the weight of her own ignorance. Richard's grip on Caleb tightened, but his eyes had shifted, no longer on me, but on Olivia, watching, judging, and for the first time, maybe, seeing her in a different light.